What's up guys, Phil here, Doctor of Physical Therapy. Today we're going to talk about an important topic that often does not get talked about enough, and that is the topic of student loans and stagnating incomes in physical therapy. You see, over the years, cost of education has just skyrocketed, and the for-profitization of universities has just been hurting students. You know, it does not take a lot of digging around to find out that university costs have increased while income has not risen at the same pace. And this problem is not just in physical therapy, it's all around. The student debt crisis has become a huge political topic of discussion. Students are coming out of schools with huge amounts of debt without enough jobs that are well paid enough to repay that debt. Look at this crazy title. Student debt expert says parents are going to live with their kids' debt until they die. Now that's something. Unfortunately, this leads to a lot of downstream effects such as delaying the start of family, delaying the buying of homes, and possibly decreasing birth rates. You know, they often say that the millennial generation is going to be the first generation where they're going to be financially worse off than their parents at that same age. Based on this graphic from CNN, it's shown that only about half of the children are earning more than their parents, whereas in the past it was a way higher percentage. You see, this problem is everywhere. It's not just in physical therapy. But we're here to talk about physical therapy, so let's dive deeper into it. You see, physical therapy is a great career where you're helping people to get back to the things that they love. It's very fulfilling and you're dealing with people. In fact, it's actually ranked one of the best jobs on the US News website. With the aging baby boomer population and the fact that physical therapy is part of healthcare, which means job security, it's quite a good career. You see how unemployment is pretty low and you earn a pretty decent living. But at the same time, we have to be transparent and look at the numbers. We have to look at the elephant in the room, the cost of education. You see, a PT degree is a graduate degree. In fact, it's a doctorate degree. So it's a doctor of PT. And fun fact, in the past, say more than 2 decades ago, so the PT degree is actually just a graduate degree. So it's actually just a master's degree, which means it used to cost less time and less money. But now the PT degree is a doctorate degree, which opened doors to direct access and stuff like that. A lot of good things, but at the same time, it increased the cost of education. According to the data compiled by APTA, American Physical Therapy Association, the average amount of student debt after a PT school is $116,000. And this is just for grad school alone. Because many students may have undergrad debt, and the average of that is around $40,000. So on average, the total amount of debt that a US graduate physical therapy student has accumulated is over $142,000. You see, that is a large number. And fun fact, this number does not even include living expenses such as rent and food. As you can probably imagine, all this adds up really, really quickly. And continuing to look at this report by the APTA, you can see the breakdown of the type of PT school and the amount of debt associated with it. So you see how in-state, state schools tend to be lower in cost. Next, out-of-state, public state schools. And finally, we have private schools, which are going to be more expensive. I touched on this a little bit earlier. Why is it so expensive? A doctorate degree compared to a graduate degree requires more training, more time. Not going to lie, there is a benefit to it though, because now we have what's called direct access, where patients don't necessarily have to go see a doctor first before they see a physical therapist. The bottom line is more time, more training, costs have increased. But now let's look at how much has it increased. And would you look at that? And so in the past 10 years, whether it be in-state public school, out-of-state public school, or private schools, their tuitions have all increased by anywhere from 30 to 40%. And if you compare that to the increase of wages in the same period of time, you can see that it's only been about 10%. So what that means is the costs have increased while the income has not kept up. In fact, this graph paints an even grimmer picture. You see how the income has only increased by 10% while inflation during the same time has been 17%. So income has not even kept up with inflation. Without getting too much into the weeds of macroeconomics, inflation just generally means a decline in purchasing power over time. So gone are the days where you can get a gallon of gas for 25 cents. So what that means as a PT is even though your income has increased by 10% over the 10 years, your real spending power has actually decreased. We know that in the US, the inflation rate tends to rise around 2 to 3% on an annual basis. For simple math, let's just say inflation is at 2%. For 10 years, your income will have to rise at least 20% just to keep up and maintain that same amount of buying power. Clearly, that hasn't happened. All this is happening while PT schools have increased their costs by more than 30%. You see, let's be brutally honest, there's not enough financial education in the education system as a whole. You see, PT schools are too busy making that sweet student loan money, and they're not incentivized to warn students about the burden of debt. And it's not something that they'll advertise. You see, becoming a doctor of physical therapy is not like becoming a medical doctor. See, you hear people going to med schools and coming out with a tremendous amount of debt, $200,000, $300,000 plus. But there's a huge difference in earning potential afterwards. So, what can we do about it? Educate, educate, educate. We need to warn pre-PT students about the potential burden of debt. You want to be smart about it and find the cheapest way to finance your physical therapy education so that you don't put yourself in a giant financial hole by the time you're out of the PT school. That could mean finding cheaper in-state schools instead of going to out-of-state or private schools. Because a doctorate of physical therapy degree is a DPT degree. At the end of the day, as long as you pass the PT board exam, and you're a certified physical therapist, it does not matter if you went to a prestigious private school or some in-state public PT school. And chances are picking an in-state PT school will cost less. And also keeping in mind of the cost of living. Going to PT school in NYU and down in Manhattan will probably cost more than going to a state school, say in Arizona. Cost of living will be less. Might be less exciting, but in the long run financially that might not be a bad decision. And also maybe even living at home if you have the means and if you have the support from your family. So being more smart about it and being more aware of what you are getting yourself into. It doesn't have to be so complicated. Say your salary is going to be, say, $80,000 and you're coming out with a huge six-figure in debt. That's probably not a good move. As always, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe if you like this type of stuff. And there's more to come.